Hi, my name is Antonio Garcia, and this is my SLS project. So for this project, I'm supposed to write about myself in 5 to 8 years. I accidentally did 10 years because on this thing, I'm 32 years old at this point, because you actually have to be 30 years old to be a senator. And for this scenario to work, it's that I'm 32 years old, me coming off of 8 years of being a political scientist, and I'm giving an autobiography to one of my speech writers so they can better know about me. So when they write speeches for me on the campaign trail, there's not a lot of, there's just all the facts there. So when I was 22 years old, I graduated from Valencia College in Orlando. Then in the same city, I applied for UCF, and I went there and got my bachelor's degree until 2024. In 2025, I moved over to Washington, D.C. Now, when I first When I first moved into city, I actually lived in Arlington, which was across the Potomac, and I had to drive every single day across it to get to my job in DC. Now, my first ever actual job in DC was for an advocacy group called the Pi Network. See, when you're a lobbyist, it's very hard to get the big paying jobs at the beginning because a lot of the job is very volatile. It requires connections and it requires people simply just to know you exist. So in order for that to happen, you have to work your way from the bottom. So I've started working with the Pi Network, which is an advocacy group for 103 local education organizations and 28 national education reform organizations. So it's basically a think tank that conveys their views to national level senators and national level representatives. So as a lobbyist, your job is essentially to educate. It's to let them know you exist, to let them know that your interests are there, and it's to let them know that there are rewards for following through on your interests. So, because of the exposure I got from working for advocacy groups like the Pi Network, I was able to meet connections and I was able to start working for large interest groups. That's like the next ring up, which are things like the NACCP and the American Civil Liberties Union. These large interest groups that, oh, and also PETA could be considered one of them. These large national interest groups that are focused on getting one certain policy passed or one specific. It's just a tool for a specific job. Like, you use a hammer to put in a nail and a screwdriver for a screw. It's like what an interest group is for a certain issue. Now, the interest group in this universe that I went through, what I did was the NAACP. And while I was actually at the Julius Rodriguez Quintet for Jazz, which is an event hosted by the NAACP, which is a black equality organization. So I was at the fundraising event. I met my friend Josh. And Josh is actually somebody who was a lobbyist at the time for Blue Cross Blue Shield, the insurance company. And he was able to get me into working in the private sector with Blue Cross Blue Shield. Now, as a lobbyist, my goal is to end up working in the private sector because that's where the money is. That's also where you start really getting noticed by representatives and senators, and your name starts getting thrown out there. Now, there's not, obviously, you or normal people don't really know a lot of lobbyists, like, in their brain, like they know senators. Like, you would know the name of Marco Rubio. But the goal, a lot of people like Marco Rubio and a lot of people like that started off exactly the same path I'm taking as a lobbyist. So at this moment in 2032, I'm running for representative for the state of Florida. Now, I'm very aware that it may not be a possibility even at 10 years. So even if this does fail, my next goal is to actually run for the actual state legislator of Florida, like representative of the Florida legislator, not the national legislator, the Florida legislator. Really, my goal is to keep running in subsequent elections. I'll keep going down the ring until I get elected somehow. So that's basically what I want to do with my life. And I've always wanted to be this way. I've always felt like I should live in Washington, D.C. I've always felt like that's the place for me. So this is why I'm here.